The NASCAR Camping World Truck Series teams are back in action this weekend at Dover International Speedway to kick off a 4-week stretch of races. While Spencer Gallagher will make his debut on Friday, Brandon Jones scored a career-best 4th-place finish last year and has 2 K&N Pro Series starts.
Spencer heads to Dover coming off his best finish of the season last race in Charlotte. He'll look to score back-to-back top 10 finishes for the first time in his Truck Series career and enters Dover 9th in points. Brandon Jones scored his first top 5 at Dover last season and looks to propel the number 33 team into the top 10 in owner standings.
We'll take you through all the storylines heading into the 6th race of 2015 and get you ready for the race at the Monster Mile.
Hi guys, and welcome to another edition of Before the Green Flag on GMSRacing.net. I'm Justin Waltham, joined by Joey Coulter and Josh Weinrich. And this week, the Camping World Truck Series returns to the Monster Mile at Dover International Speedway. And guys, we know that this track has a history of just absolute insane racing. So for GMS, what can we expect this weekend?
I mean, it's going to be exciting for sure, but I think as far from GMS, it's going to be a good weekend. I mean, you know, obviously I think we say it every week, but Brandon had a fantastic run there last year, finished 4th. Spencer's never been there, but like Josh has said before, he always seems to run good at places he's never been. Last year, that was GMS' first top 5 in the Truck Series. So historically, it's been a pretty good track so far. It's one of my favorites on the schedule just because it is so crazy. I mean, there's a lot that can happen. A lot does happen. It happens really fast. I think the number one phrase that's never said at Dover is "I kind of brushed the wall a little bit."
Yeah.
If something doesn't go your way, it's usually the wrong way, pretty far. But you know, the guys they've been working hard. You can see week to week the teams have been growing, and you know, everybody. I think it's easy to say, "Oh, well, it's our second year. We should be running better." There's a lot that's got to get worked out. You know, you got 2 rookie drivers, one of them working with a new crew chief. So there's a lot that's going to keep developing, that has developed a lot already. And Dover is usually, historically, has kind of been the turning point in a lot of people's seasons. It has been for me in the past. It was for us last year here at GMS. So I think a lot of good things can be expected out of both teams this weekend.
Stuff happens fast at Dover. I mean, I don't think that Dover really gets the recognition for as fast of a racetrack as it is. It probably feels faster from the driver's seat. But
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's and people always say it's Bristol on steroids. It's kind of got the same complexion as Bristol, and the transitions in and out of the corners are just ludicrous. And when something goes wrong there, it gets big pretty quick, and it gets big. So. And the concrete, too, is, I would imagine, is probably such a huge change, the way you set up the truck and the way you attack the racetrack and everything. And then with the rubber getting put down and getting picked back up, that's got to be something that is pretty difficult to handle throughout the weekend.
It is. It's different, especially only going there. You know, we only race on concrete twice. You go to Dover once and Bristol once. It's a pretty different environment, especially from the driver's seat, just because of how it feels. You know, concrete, there's not a lot of character to it. It's pretty well sealed up tight. Once the rubber gets laid down, if it's hot, it gets greasy. If it's cold, it just kind of gets, you know, almost rough feeling when that rubber starts getting laid down. And then when the caution comes out, you pick it all back up. It gets all over your tires. Restarts are a handful there. And again, it's not exactly the widest place we race either.
Yeah.
So that
well, it looks wide, but it doesn't race wide.
No, not at all. Not at all. And you know, it's such just an odd racetrack. You know, Bristol, you drive into the banking. You know, you go down the straightaway, and if you go to the top of the racetrack, you're up higher than you are. You could drive in the top of the corner at Dover, you're still below the start finish line. I mean, you really drive off into a hole, and it's a feeling you can't get anywhere else. I mean, it is something it's amazing. It's so much fun.
Dover's one of the coolest places because you can see, more than any other track, you can see the transitions into the corner. You can see the trucks fly off the cliff into the corner and just land. And I mean, you can see how harsh it is. And then you can see on corner exit too, and they come up out of the hole and almost go off a motorcycle ramp. It almost looks like, the front noses come way up and guys get out of shape, and that's usually where the excitement starts.
Yeah, and with a truck too, it's so the trucks don't have a ton of horsepower, and they're fighting a pretty big aero deficiency because they're so boxy, and it's just, you can't get out of the gas before you get in the corner. There's too much distance. You slow down too much. So you have to commit yourself to and trust your equipment and everything you got. You have to drive over that hill down into the corner before you start slowing down. And I mean, I remember the first time I went there, we practiced pretty decent. Went out to make our first mock run. Went and did our mock run. We went to P2 on the board, and I got done with my lap. Got low on the backstretch, came to pit road, was getting my tire temps, and then realized that I was still holding my breath. I literally, from the time I left pit road on that 2-lap mock run, held my breath the whole time because that place was it's such a rush. It's so out of control feeling. And, I mean, you're going a mile in
24 seconds.
Yeah, you're moving around there. But it's just awesome. I'm really excited. I can't wait to see Spencer's reaction after the first time he goes out, because as animated as he is, this place he's gonna love it.
And we were able to catch up with Jeff Stankiewicz, and speaking of the whole concrete, going there for the first time this year compared to asphalt, kind of get his take from the crew chief standpoint of how he's going to attack this weekend.
I think the biggest difference between concrete and asphalt is the asphalt takes the rubber differently than the concrete does, and the asphalt tracks the concrete tracks don't seem to be as weather affected with the heat and the cold, of where Charlotte we just were is very, very sensitive. So we're going from the most sensitive weather track to the least sensitive weather track going into Dover. The biggest thing is they lay down a lot of rubber, but then under cautions you tend to pick it back up rolling around there. So then seems like every restart you have a green track going back green.
So Jeff Stankiewicz giving his insight into this weekend's race at Dover. And Joey, we've got drivers with no experience at Dover, and then Brandon with very little experience. Mentally, as a driver, how do you approach this weekend that we've talked about? This track is so insane.
It's hard to do. I mean, because, again, we only race there once a year, so it's tough. I mean, again, just like anywhere else, watching video, trying to get a good layout for how the race usually works is a big thing. For Spencer never being there, that's going to be his biggest asset, is watching film and going over notes and stuff from last year to see how the track changes. That place changes a lot during the course of the truck race. We start out, right as the sun's kind of at its hottest and the track's been hot all day, and then depending on the weather conditions, it will start to cool down when you get towards the last quarter or so of the race. So that's going to make a big difference. And that'll be a little bit of a challenge, but I think, again, going off the notes and film from before, and just getting some pretty good laps in practice, he'll be all right.
Yeah, 200 laps at Dover really isn't that long of a race. The pit window about 75, 80 laps. You're going to have probably 2 cracks at it, and with the way track position is, you're not going to want any more than that coming down pit road. So it seems, like we said, when things go wrong at Dover, they go really wrong, but it seems like whenever you get a green flag feel to a race at Dover, you get a long green flag run. So, there's been truck races at Dover in the past that have come down to some green flag stops on that last little run there. So, Brandon, like Joey said, he did great last year, finished 4th. He's also got some K&N experience, so he's been there 3 times. He's raced there. He's got plenty of practice laps under his belt, so I think Brandon will be real good right off the truck. And Spencer, he hasn't been there before, but he's been to some crazy racetracks before, like Salem, Winchester, places like that. So it's not like he hasn't seen a really super high speed, high bank place before. So I think, and the way he got himself acclimated to Charlotte, got himself getting going at Atlanta, he's done a heck of a job at places, showing up to the first time and getting up to speed quickly. And as our resident dirt expert, that Spencer's been doing a lot of this dirt racing. Is there something he could take away, from the dirt racing, as you're on tracks that are constantly changing and are pretty rough to drive on? Do you think he can take away some of these dirt things he's learned and take them to Dover.
Yeah, I mean, in dirt racing, the surface changes so much, so quickly. And under caution at Dover, that rubber that gets put down gets picked right back up. So it seems like every single restart, after you pick the rubber up, the racetrack's completely different.
Yeah, and even on a long green run, once everybody kind of tends to run the bottom or at least the middle. During a long run, if it starts laying a bunch of rubber down, you'll actually start moving it. So all of a sudden, you kind of end up with this big patch of rubber right where your right side's run. And if there's any kind of track temp, if the sun's still out and baking the racetrack, it really turns into a pretty slick little area. And it changes the way you have to attack the racetrack, and it's going to do that throughout the course of the day. And after it does that, if the caution comes out, like you're saying, you'll pick most of that back up. And then you got to get it off your tires before you go back green, or you'll have one of those days.
And also going back to Brandon, he's got a good, solid finish there last year at 4th, and we were able actually to catch up with him this week and kind of see how he's approaching this weekend after having a strong finish there last year.
Yeah, I think the main thing about Dover is we just started racing on a mile and a half just recently. So last year we ran a lot of mile and under tracks, and I think this kind of has characteristics of a mile and a half and a mile. Corners are a little bit like the short track there, and then the long straightaways. So I think that's been the biggest thing there so far. I think you just got to be tough and man up around that place. You got to be almost wide open there in qualifying. So it's pretty tough at one of those racetracks.
So Brandon Jones giving his insight into this weekend. And I know we have a lot of fun activities going on for the people coming to the track. And Josh, when is some of the appearances that people can come out and see us?
Yeah, it's going to be a full day on Friday. We're going to have Spencer and Brandon both participating in the Camp World Truck Series autograph session right outside of in the midway, right outside the grandstands, I think at 2:15 on Friday afternoon. So this is also we're doing 4 collectible hero cards for Spencer this year, and Dover's the last race that fans can come get the first edition of the hero card. So come out and see us. Come meet the drivers. Say hey to us. Should be a packed show on Friday with qualifying and the autograph session. Then go racing around 5:30.
Get a free high five if you mention the show at the autograph session.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's right.
Free high five for
yeah.
everybody.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Also, be sure you're following us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at GMS Racing LLC as we keep you up to date with all the action going on at Dover and all the action every weekend at the racetrack. And also be sure to check out gmsracing.net for all your news and info of all the happenings here at GMS. I'm Justin Wapping, Joey Coulter, and Josh Weinrich, and thanks for tuning in to another edition of Before the Green Flag.